will. And there's also headlines for Baker Mayfield going on. I just stepped away to go take care of something for my dog real quick, and I see Baker Mayfield's going after the media on Twitter. What is going on?
Wait, what? I haven't seen that yet.
Someone just sent me go to Baker Mayfield's timeline here.
Let's see. Baker.
Everyone's having a meltdown today.
Well, there's been considerable. Oh
Yes.
boy. So
yes.
Oh boy. So Baker Mayfield, to break down what Josina's talking about, Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, friend of the pod, wrote a story. Says Browns Baker Mayfield must resolve his differences with Kevin Stefanski soon in case they need to coexist next season. Also, some names that will be on the radar if they don't. Basically, looking at the crossroads that the Browns find themselves at with the quarterback situation as Baker Mayfield prepares to undergo labrum surgery. Baker quote tweets it and says, "Clickbait, you and many other," you can see it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, "you and many other Cleveland local media continue to be drama-stirring reporters with no sources or facts. Don't put words in my mouth so you can put food on your table. I'm not your puppet." Oh, my goodness. That is aggressive.
Whoa. And kudos to your producer for getting that up really quickly. Look at that.
Debo is the fastest.
Yes.
It looks, I'm having trouble getting this to load. I have to purchase is this one of those things where I need to purchase I got to do some, it's not even telling me to buy anything. Anyway, I can't get the whole thing to load.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a cookie situation, but I would point out that I don't think, I mean, again, I can't read it, so I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think what Mary Kay Cabot is doing here is saying that she's, I don't believe she's reporting, right? I think she's just like, it's an opinion piece.
Oh, you're trying to pull up the article.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. But I mean, keep just talking about we can talk about how
I guess what I'm saying is I don't think Mary Kay was attempting to, I think it was a load. I don't know what's going on. I don't think Mary Kay was attempting to say, sources say, Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski hate each other. I think she's saying that they've got to get on the same page before next year if they want to be able to win. Now, again, let's see what we'll have to see what exactly what what.
I can send you the link in the chat.
I got the link. I can't get the.
Okay. Oh, it won't open. Okay, so if you have an Apple computer, if you go to the all the way to the right and you see the vertical 3 dots in the right corner, and if you hit an incognito window, see where it says incognito window? Hit that and then put the link in that browser, and maybe it will open up for you there. You could try that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about incognito.
Incognito.
There it is. So I'm just going to Google source. All right, here. Okay, here we go. Mayfield's issues with Stefanski bubbled below the surface most of the season, with Mayfield feeling like Stefanski's play calling didn't always put him in position to succeed or play to his strengths, sources told Cleveland.com. So that would be what Baker is taking umbrage with, is that, and then Stefanski didn't necessarily dispute
the claim.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's a little like, I get where I could see Baker's frustration there, because this is not
direct.
The Browns are upset with Baker over how this is handled and the rift is building. It's Baker had issues with Stefanski's play calling most of the season, reporting, and you have to be reporting from somebody on Baker's side there, to
well, I think, and I haven't read the article, but I do know that Baker Mayfield, after the game, he made some comments about the like he said that he felt like they weren't necessarily helping the rookie tackle enough. I remember that. I don't know if he specifically said anything about the plays, but she might be referring to, without reading the article, what Baker Mayfield specifically said post game.
Yeah. And then dating back to October, Mayfield, and this is again reading from Mary Kay Cabot's article on Cleveland.com. Go check it out. Mayfield felt the run-heavy 3 tight end scheme didn't play to his strengths, and Stefanski wasn't calling enough of the play-action bootlegs that Mayfield excelled at last season. The discord escalated to the point where Mayfield at times would have preferred offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt call the plays, but Stefanski kept the responsibility, and Mayfield grew increasingly frustrated. So, yeah, I think it is. I'm not saying whether Mary Kay is right or wrong with her reporting. I'm not questioning the reporting, but inherently with the way that this is framed, it does.
You're illuminating why he could potentially take umbrage.
Yeah, exactly. And you were saying this is how Baker Mayfield felt. So for Baker, I think that his response, as aggressive as it is, perhaps is not surprising given that, it makes
he's indicating that he feels like this is not something that he's been directly talking to her about.
Yeah, correct. Correct. He's saying, look, I don't know where you're getting this. It ain't me. And that's not true. You're stirring it up. So,
And again, I haven't read the whole article. I'm very informed behind the stuff, behind the scenes with the Brown stuff. I haven't read all the article, but sometimes reporters don't necessarily always talk direct to the person if you've said things that are in public record, if they're referring to that. I don't know if that's what she's doing here, but that might be part of the case, right?
So, I mean, look, anyway, this is going to be a story throughout the entire offseason. I like Mary Kay Cabot a lot. I think she's great. So I'm not, but I do like the idea that Baker as a player, and this is something newer in the last 5 years or 5 or 10 years, he can come out and criticize something directly rather than having, through social media. I think it's I think it's kind of cool that these guys have a voice now if they want to, push back against a story that's written. Like I remember, Brady Quinn talks all the time about how, when he was in Cleveland, there were reports coming out, about him not his original rookie contract. He didn't want to sign it and all this. And he felt like he got hosed and didn't have an ability to push back against it. And now you have a quarterback like Baker in a situation where there's conflict with the team and he can just come out and say, hey, not true. I don't know. I find that kind of cool. But to the larger point, do you think that Baker will be with the Browns because they have his 5th-year option? He's a tradable asset, I suppose.
Well, no. Let's clarify that. So yes, they picked up his 5th-year option. So he's guaranteed $18.8 million.
Yes.
That part is correct. He can still be traded even after the option is picked up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Which is very possible.
Right.
And then Albert Breer put out a statement, article a couple weeks ago. I think we briefly touched on it. Maybe the last time we talked, or maybe it happened right after we braked for the holiday, intimating that the Browns may be interested in going after Deshaun Watson, provided that all the other off-field stuff is taken care of, and or potentially court other veteran quarterbacks, because the notion was Baker has to show improvement or give indications that his leadership is at a point to make the Browns organization feel comfortable to extend him in the neighborhood of what you're seeing the Carson Wentz's make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Baker wants to get somewhere between probably 30. Like the Carson Wentz is spot on. That's the barometer that I've been using for Baker's contract. Like, because you can't get Baker $40 million a year right now. Obviously, I don't think you can give him $35 million a year right now. But I think if
well, see, what happens is that every year, the cap obviously goes up, right? And so you're looking at where the max pie is. And so relative to that percent increase, when they're doing these contracts, they put that on and they account for that inflation. So there's a different conversation as to whether you think the quarterback is worth that dollar relative to whether it's appropriate in connection to the total pie. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Like, that's right. We talk about it a lot of times, and fans talk about it as in Baker makes $35 million a year. That's insane. But it's like, if it's, it's just budgeting. You budget out a certain percentage of your cap space for your quarterback, and you don't want to get above too much, you don't want to give too high a number, because then it becomes difficult. Then you have to reduce the numbers, obviously, for other positions. But yeah, I mean, I do think, though, with Baker specifically, if the Browns came out and agreed to a $35 million a year contract with him this offseason, there would be some unrest in Cleveland, and it's kind of dumb, because I think $25 million a year, people would be like, oh, that's a great, that's fine. That's not bad, relative to quarterbacks.
No way he's going to go for no 25
Correct.
million. Yeah.
But that's what I've been saying all along, Josina, is that there's this gulf from like $30 to $35 million a year, where the Browns would like to be below it probably, and Baker would like to be above it. And so it's hard to find. You could land in the middle there and be right at the Wentz thing, but
he's going to make an argument to get above the Wentz number because of the inflation and the increase of the cap. So that's what gets you over that number. Now, whether he's worth it based on the metrics, is another story. But one thing about Baker, he's not going to go quietly. And even though he doesn't have the same leverage as Deshaun Watson does with the Houston Texans, as far as having a no trade clause, okay, as far as I'm aware, and I haven't looked at it myself, but I haven't heard of one, and that's you can find out easily. I don't assume that Baker is going to be quiet about going to a team that he doesn't want to go. So, I'm sure Andrew Berry would be calling the Houston Texans, to try to do a swap there. And the Houston Texans, the Baker Mayfield is marketable. It's not like he's marketable to help, put fans in the seats or what have you. But the question is, would Baker Mayfield balk and make it known that you can trade me here, but I'm not going to show up. So the problem that you just had with Deshaun Watson, you're going to have with me, here, not trying to be here either.
Correct.
And these players are just flexing and flexing and flexing, because of their increased knowing of what their value is relative to what their coaches make and relative to making the cycle of the business of the NFL go round.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of complex factors in there. Ultimately, I think Baker will be on the Browns in 2022, but I don't think he'll get a contract extension before 2022.
Well, I think the situation is always as good as the options.
That is fair. That's fair. Sure.
So and all of this, Will, is interconnected. We got to see how Russell Wilson's going to play his chess cards in Seattle. That is yet to be seen. How much are you going to go public with what you're trying to make it be or what you're not trying to make it be? I know for a fact that that my understanding is that they're for sure going to assess the situation and then make a conclusion. That doesn't sound like any breaking news. I'll tell you why that is illuminating, right? Because that's what people do. But this is why that is illuminating. Because if you know you're staying, then that's what you say. That's why that's illuminating. So sometimes when I tweet things out, people are like, oh, Josina, Captain Obvious. But you're not understanding because it's it is news because if you are staying, you say something else. And it is news depending on who's saying it.
Right.
This is what I try to clarify, but just to go back and kind of, cement into the Browns conversation. I think what is happening, I know what is happening here is that the conversations have changed behind the scenes. Okay. So when Odell was still with the Browns, okay. And I know, and I think we've talked about it on your podcast, Will, is that the coaches, even when they felt it was Baker's fault or knew it was Baker's fault or the film showed things that were, partially his fault or whatever, they weren't as vocal about it. And within the last 3 weeks, I remember when my source called me the day it happened. They called me and they said there was a difference in the meeting. Like they finally, were more vocal about how they felt. And also I know that the tone of those conversations changed and the way that the coaches expressed that to the general manager. So for the last 3 weeks, I've been saying in my head, it's already changed. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just how the question is, how is it going to work out? What are the options? Okay. What is Baker Mayfield going to acquiesce to and not acquiesce to? All of those things factor. I can't sit here and say that I know that AB, and that not being Antonio Brown, that we don't get to the other AB.
Andrew Berry, the GM.
Andrew Berry, the GM. Let's make that clear. It has seen enough to be comfortable enough to give the money that Baker feels like he deserves. And quarterbacks don't grow on trees, right? So regardless of what you think about Baker Mayfield, you have to respect the fact that he can run an offense because there's just not many out there, right?
Yep.
We're not talking about the Mike Glennons, Will. Who else we not talking about? You know what I'm saying? He's definitely in an echelon where he's productive for your team.
Baker is a starting caliber quarterback. When everything, but we don't know yet whether Baker Mayfield, this is the problem. He hasn't proven whether he is a
next level guy,
a guy who can elevate the people around him, or if he's and I don't I think a Carson Wentz or a Kirk Cousins could qualify. Like, is he a guy that is going to play well when everything is in place around him? Or is he a guy who, can rise above circumstances that make it difficult to perform? That's the question.
Well, and also basically lead above the emotions. Basically what it comes down to. Can you lead above the emotions? And what do I mean by that? The situation, look, when John Dorsey brought in Baker Mayfield, I was people like, oh my God, he shouldn't have been the first, but I was very much Baker Mayfield at the time deserved to be the number one overall. And I still like his moxie. I still think he has potential. I don't like the way the situation devolved with Odell Beckham Jr., although I feel like Baker had certain things that you could debate as to why he felt the way he felt, whether they should have been practicing together in the offseason, all these different things. I'm sure both sides have things that they can point out. But the difference between Odell and Baker Mayfield out of the equation is that Baker Mayfield is the quarterback. He's the one that's the quarterback. And you're the one tasked with reining it in. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And making sure that whatever is the beef of the situation, it stays to professional on the field. Not that you're not being professional from a comportment standpoint, if that's even the word, but more so from if the plays are called, it's supposed to go to Odell, and you're not doing what the coaches say. That's a whole different conversation. And you don't have to at me on that, Baker. That's coming from inside. You see what I'm saying? Or what have you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, looking, the other thing that's just worth noting real quickly from Mary Kay's article, if Mayfield doesn't get on Cleveland.com again, if Mayfield doesn't get reassurance that things will change next season, he'll consider asking to be traded. He's under contract for the 5th-year option, but at this point, it's uncertain if the Browns even view him as their starter for 2022. So it's tough. I mean, again, it's tough to say. Like, this does feel like it could be coming from the Browns, sort of as a, hey.
Wait. Reread this sentence that includes the part with the trade. Go back again.
If Mayfield doesn't get reassurance that things will change next season, he'll consider asking to be traded. In other words, things with the play calling and whatnot. So in other words, Baker could.
So meaning that, but I understand maybe. Okay. So the way that it's written, the way that you just read it to me, if you read that on the first hearing, it would sound like that's coming from Baker's camp.
Correct.
Okay. However, I could see how that could be coming from the Browns, meaning that that's what she was told, that they were told. However, it's not necessarily written that way. But I understand, because I get it. I do this.
Yeah,
right?
It's hard
we all get it.
You don't want to be like, you don't want to be like, Andrew Berry told me off the record that Baker Mayfield may consider asking for a trade. Like, you can't say that. Like,
so it's not that she doesn't recognize that, right? Yeah. Is that you're writing it in a way because you're trying to camouflage where the information came from. However, the way that it's written, right? That, you could see how Baker could potentially take umbrage with that if he specifically didn't say that, or he didn't say that to her, or doesn't know that maybe his representative said, whatever. And we also don't know, because he didn't detail in the tweet what part of the article that he's actually taking issue with.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And look, like, even the stuff where it says Mayfield's issue with Mayfield feeling like Stefanski's play calling, I mean, it could have been something where he went and talked to an offensive coordinator, and that offensive coordinator talked to Mary Kay Cabot. I'm not trying to source guess, just saying that it's, I understand Baker's frustration with the article. It doesn't necessarily, as we point out, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from Baker's camp. And that's why Baker's probably upset, because it makes it. And look, this is what you want if you're the front office and you're trying to put pressure on Baker Mayfield, or you're the Browns. You want it to look like Baker is the bad guy publicly. I mean, this is a tale as old as time in the NFL, where
push buttons, get people to react, right? And then look like you're the coy cat in the corner.
But it's not like, Mary Kay is being given this information that is relevant to the situation. So, anyway, it's a inside baseball stuff in terms of how that works from the sourcing and all that. But the point being is, this is going to be a thing all off season, because it's Baker's going to have the surgery and then start rehabbing. And then once we get to March, February with the combine, and then March with the free agency, he's going to be a name that, he's either on the move, or is, depending on if they can find, if they want to get Watson, et cetera, et cetera. Baker Mayfield's future is up in the air. And that is a fair statement.